It took place in an Indonesian kindergarten during last year's summer holidays. The uniform fund was 75,000 yen. So the table of contents, we can talk about project background objectives, 3 core actions, which include school uniform donation, English teaching in 3 schools, volunteer experience sharing session, observations on English education in Indonesia, and lastly, what we learned in Indonesia. So here's the school information. It is established in 2016 in Bandung, West Java, Indonesia. The school status during volunteer, which is June last year, was there were 5 teachers with 4 volunteers, 33 children aged from 3 to 6 years old, and the children attend classes from 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. For English teaching, we apply our project to the Challenge Grant Program, which is supported by Fukuoka Jo Gakuin University. The program was launched in 2013. The student can apply up to 300,000 yen in funding to complete their challenges. Previous projects include Fukuoka Exploration Project for International Students and the Shopping Street Manual. And this is the first time we have been involved in an overseas project. Our main goal was to provide uniforms to students in need, but we also wanted to highlight the value of international volunteering. This experience would help students not to contribute to a good cause, but also experience different cultures and improve their English skills. Our volunteer experience in Indonesia focused on 3 main activities: uniform donation, English teaching, and training session on international volunteering. These activities were designed to make a direct impact on local communities while also fostering cross-cultural exchange.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Now I will present the background of the project and the details of it and my observations of education in Indonesia. I had already decided to do volunteer at the NPO kindergarten before the summer vacation. And when I talked to the teacher, and they told me because of the financial problem, and there are some few kids don't have the uniform right now, and there are less smells. So when I hear about the challenging program, and we decided to apply for the money and donation the uniform for the kids. Next, please. Can you change the PowerPoint? Yeah, I have received 75,000 yen in funding for universe in July. And after arriving in Indonesia in August, I spoke with the factory to discuss price and managed to buy 60 universe with a budget of 75,000. And plus some extra stock, we then gave the universe to 26 kids. Each child 3 new uniforms, and they can use it for 2 years in kindergarten. They can play with the volunteering and teacher every morning. So next one. Next, please. Yeah, this is a photo like what I did with the Italian volunteer, and yeah, it's the activities before we give the uniform and after we give the uniform. Next, please. And the next thing I did is teaching English in Indonesia. I teach at 3 local schools during my 3 weeks in Indonesia. The first one is the Curious Training School located in Jakarta, where the principal also works as an English teacher. The tuition fee is very low. It's only 15,000 to 60,000 per year, and the students can learn spoken English, cooking, and cleaning skills. After graduation, they can work in the international chefs and earn around $800. Although the students aged 18 to 30, they had basic English skills, and they are very motivated and hardworking. Mostly, they can work in the 5-star hotel in Turkey or Dubai. The second one was the Cologne School for the Girls in London, where the principal's daughter studied. Class from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. every day, and all the girls wear the traditional black Muslim clothing in the school, and they cannot speak any English almost. And the third one is the volunteer English class at kindergarten, open to the local children and teenagers. Classes were held every night from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And I worked with 2 other volunteers from Italian. We played games, painting, and sing the songs, and practiced the basic conversations. Although their age and English level are very different, but they are really seriously, and sometimes they even waiting outside when we are eating the dinner. And the third activity was shell station. Yanika, please.
Thank you so much, Kunjan. So the third activity was a sharing session at Fukuoka Jo Gakuin University last November. When we were talking to our classmates, we noticed that many were interested in traveling or studying abroad, but weren't sure what to expect at it. And they were very confusing on what to do with what international volunteer or travel overseas. We explained the benefits of volunteer work, focus on work away. We talked about how to find suitable projects, how to apply, how to plan the budget, prepare for travel, and stay safe. About 35 students and 15 staff members attended, and many students said that they now feel more interested and confident about trying international volunteer work.
While carrying all these activities, I also had an opportunity to observe the local education system in Indonesia. I have 2 observations. First one, as the largest Muslim country in the world, Indonesia education is very close to the Islam. For example, the kids in the kindergarten, they started learning the Arabic when they are only like 3-4 years old to read the Quran. And even though they're only about 13% of English Islam school, but mostly public school students also attend extra Quran class after school, so which leaves them little time to study another language. Also, Indonesia youngers have very strong passion for learning English, because Indonesia has a very young population, but job opportunity are limited, and the salary is a bit low, around $150 to $200 per month. So many young people, they want to learn English to work abroad, and they can earn at least $5 or $500, $800, or $1,000. Their motivation is very clear and practical. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah, our slogan was bring smiles to children. Sorry, wait for a second.
So our slogan was bringing smiles to children. This project was led by international students from China and Thailand, funded by Christian school in Japan, and brought smiles to Muslim children in Indonesia. We were proud that this was a cross-cultural volunteer project that went beyond differences in religion and internationality, showing the power of teamwork and kindness. It was a great pleasure for us to introduce international volunteering to Japanese students. We hope to hear good news that children smile when they receive their new uniforms. It reminded us that even a small effort can make a meaningful difference. We're deeply grateful to Fukuoka Jo Gakuin for this opportunity and to teachers who supported us. This experience has inspired us to continue helping the communities in need. More than just providing uniforms, our whole country collaboration shows genuine understanding, care, and unity across the borders. This concludes our first presentation. We'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you for your listening. I have any questions regarding of the Indonesia volunteering?
Are there programs, are you able to continue them? Like you went for one time and came back to the university. Is there anyone else continuing that, or is it like the one-off?
So the school in Indonesia, they always welcome volunteers, like anyone who can speak English and willing to teach kids. They always welcome anyone who would like to go and teach there. And then for the uniform, so the kids can use the uniform for 2 years, and after they can save to another generation of students. Yeah, so it's not like a one-time thing. I think. Thank you for your time. Oh, yes, please.
How did you contact or coordinate with the Italian?
Oh, so actually, Mojang, how did you contact with the Italian volunteer in
How do you
Indonesia?
count what? Okay.
I think they met through.
Oh yeah. We met in the school. Like I came to Indonesia after 3 days, and the Italian couple also came to the school. So we worked together like 3 weeks.
So Mojang applied to the volunteer work from both the website, and I think that Italian couples also apply over there, so they met in the school. Thank you for your question.
Have another project that you want to do yourself?
So right now, I'm trying to find a job in Japan, but I'm also doing the volunteer work in Japan right now, like teaching English to the kids and help the school to translate the poster and stuff to Japanese to Thai, Japanese to English. So I did the local volunteer. If I have time after finish job hunting period, I would like to go to another country to do volunteer. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna take 15 minutes break to take presentation. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you everyone. I hope you enjoyed 15-minute break. So we'll come back to the presentation again. Here is the English education in Thailand and Singapore. So this presentation includes Thailand overview, Singapore overview, and personal experiences and Q&A. So as you know, I'm from Thailand. Thailand is in the southeast of Asia. We only have summer in Thailand. And there's approximately 70 million people with Bangkok as its capital. So regarding of the cultural context, Buddhism is the official religion practiced by about 95% of the population. So this religious background has influenced our educational approach, which has traditionally been very teacher-centered. For the language environment, Thai is our official language, and English is the foreign language in Thailand. So Thai educational system is as same as Japan. We have preschool education, elementary education, lower secondary education, upper secondary education, and higher education. So until the lower secondary education, there's a preschool which you can attend. Yes. There's a lot of education challenges in Thailand. So there's significant inequality in educational opportunities across the country. The distribution of resources between urban and rural areas is uneven, and our classroom tend to be very large, around 40 to 50 students per class. And there's also teacher shortages program, limited budget for educational developments. Here's the English education in Thailand. So as you can see here, primary education level, not more than 40 hours for each year. Yeah, so we only study English one lesson per week, so it's very few. And then for the lower secondary education level, not more than 200 hours for each year, so it's about 4 lessons a week. And upper secondary education, not less than 1,600 hours a year. So I think compared to Japanese education system, Thai students don't learn English as much as we're supposed to learn. So looking more specifically at English education challenges, we can categorize them into student-related and teacher-related issues. From the student perspective, large class sizes make individual attention nearly impossible. Students have limited exposure to English outside the classroom, as we only use Thai language. There's a cultural fear of making mistakes, which inhibits speaking practice. Many students have low motivation for English learning due to perceived lack of relevance. And from the teacher perspective, many English teachers are non-native speakers with varying proficiency levels. There are also limited professional development opportunities. Traditional teaching methods persist, focusing only on grammar and memorization. Teachers often lack confidence in their own English speaking abilities. So even though we learned English in the past, teachers only speak Thai. Okay, so now let's shift our focus to Singapore. Singapore is also a very small city in the Southeast Asia, but it's one of the world's major commercial hubs and highly urbanized. Singapore has a diverse ethnic composition, approximately 75% Chinese, 15% Malay, 70% Indian, and 3 others. Singapore has 4 official languages: English, Mandarin Chinese, Malay, and Tamil. What's significant about Singapore's language environment is that English serves as the main medium of instruction in schools, and students learn both English and their mother tongue. English is widely used in government, business, education, and daily life. Here's the Singapore educational system, which is very confusing. So in the primary school, age 7 to 12, they all study the same thing, but after that, they went to all different schools. For example, some can do the CTA level and then go to the bachelor degree. some can take the O level and go to polytechnics, and some can take the A level. I'm not very familiar with this, but the four subjects of the Singapore educational system is English language, mother tongue, mathematics, and science. Now, I would like to share my personal educational journey. I began my education in Thailand, progressing from kindergarten through primary school and secondary school. In high school, I enrolled in English program, which provided more intensive English instruction. Later, I pursued my international education in Singapore, where I completed a Kaplan diploma in commerce, specializing in finance and banking. I then earned my Bachelor of Science in Banking and Finance from Essex University of England. My educational path eventually led me to Japan, where I studied at Fukuoka Foreign Language School to learn Japanese. And then I also went to technical school in Japan before enrolling at the Fukuoka Jo Gakuin University, where I'm currently studying right now. So now I'd like to share my personal experience with English language testing, especially the TOEIC listening and reading exam. As you can see here, this is my score. So last year was my first time that I took the TOEIC, and for the first time I got it was the IP test, institutional program test, which was conducted in the school, and I got 895. And on my second attempt, I went for the official test. Yeah, and my listening score was 51. And the third time also in the school, and it was 955. So the tips to improve my TOEIC is just read and listen a lot. Read regularly to strengthen vocabulary and comprehension. So read anything you like, whether it's a books, comics, Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, it doesn't matter. And then also listen to English content daily to train your ear for listening section. For example, listen to the podcast, songs, or even watch a series. The key is consistency, and it has to be fun so you won't get bored. So what motivated me to start learning English? Initially, it was my parents who recognized the importance of English in today's globalization world. As I grew older, I developed my own motivation when I realized how English could open doors to international education and career opportunities. My biggest challenges in learning English were pronunciation, especially the sounds that don't exist in Thai, and overcoming the fear of making mistakes in public. The Thai educational system often emphasizes grammatical accuracy over fluency, which makes speaking confidently difficult. To practice and improve my English speaking skills, I actively sought out language exchange partners, joined English clubs, watched English movies with English subtitles, which really helped me to listen, read, remember vocabulary at the same time, and eventually immerse myself in environment where English was necessary for daily communication. I enjoy watching movies, TV shows in English because they expose me to natural language use, slang, idioms, and cultural context that aren't taught in the textbooks. So from my experience, effective ways to overcome the fear of making mistakes. Reminding myself that mistakes are part of the learning process. Start by speaking by myself. friends and teachers, and also focusing on communication rather than perfection. So how do I incorporate English into my daily routine? I set my phone and my computer in English. And also I like to watch a lot of Netflix shows. Yeah. So how has learning English impacted your personal and professional life? Learning English has profoundly impacted both my personal and professional life. Personally, it allows me to connect with more people from diverse backgrounds and access to wealth of entertainment and information. Professionally, it has enabled me to pursue international education and has significantly expanded my career prospects. So now I would like to compare English education in Thailand and Japan. Firstly, you're gonna look at English teachers, foreigner English teachers in Thailand. Most of the teachers in Thailand are backpackers, so they don't even know how to use the correct grammar or write correctly. But in Japan, a lot of teachers are well trained and have higher education, which is like completely different. And English teacher who is local, so they cannot speak English and they only focus on grammar and writing. In Japan, I have no idea, sorry. For the classroom atmosphere in Thailand, it's always too loud and they are so excited and enthusiasm. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult for teacher to control the students. But it's completely opposite in Japan. Students in Japan is too quiet. They don't speak at all. Even though teacher asks them question, they don't say a word. And the teacher salary in Thailand is very low. So it's about 50,000 yen per month. Yeah, and in Japan is a little bit higher than Thailand. No, a lot higher than Thailand. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Well, I have a question. So in Japan, a really important part of the education system is the transcript, the degrees. Because so getting into university is important, but to prepare for the university entrance, people have to pay in private schools. Is Thailand anything like that?
So for me, I didn't go to any private school, but for my sister, she wanted to be a doctor. So in her high school, she went to private school every day after school for 2 years. And in the end, she could finally pass the exam, and now she's in her 5th year. Yeah, university right now. I feel like yeah, cram school is expensive. Not a lot of people could afford to go, so it was popular, but yeah, expensive.
And kind of related to that, in Japan, most Japanese people go to English, but the kind of plays this role to get into a good university, you have to pass English tests. So it has no relationship to what students' goals to study. So passing English tests and written tests. How is there anything like that in Thailand?
Yeah, there's a lot. So for my sister, she doesn't need the English test to become doctor, but she needs the mathematics, science, and physics. They have like separate tests for that, and you have to take the test and take the score to the university in order to get accepted. Yeah, so if you want to go to good university in Thailand, I think it's important to go to private school because in the normal school, they don't teach you as much as you expected. And the teacher in the school, they also got their own private class after the school as well. Yeah, so if you want to have a good grade in that subject, you have to study with her in the private classes. So there's another problem because some students couldn't afford to take another private class, so their grade is a little bit lower. Yes, please.
You said that the Thai class in noisy.
Yeah, super noisy.
That because they're trying to speak English, they're enthusiastic or not?
Both. So students who sit in the front, they'll be trying to speak to the teacher because they like to talk to foreigners. Yeah, like Thai people, we like to talk to foreigners. We like to be friendly with them. And students who sit at the back, they just don't care anything and they just keep talking to each other. So overall, it's noisy. And also, yeah, but you can expect good students, like half of the class.
But you also said they're backpackers, so they're not trained, so they don't really know how to run a class.
Yeah, right.
Probably a bit chaotic.
When I was in high school, we have the backpacker teacher and also assistant teacher who is Thai. So she's the one who control the class. Yeah, and the teacher, the English teacher, just write something on the board and then try to get students' attention, but it's difficult. Yeah, because they aren't well trained. Yes, please.
They're a backpacker teacher, meaning public school.
Public and private school, both.
So
So-
I could go to Thailand. Get a job and so.
Yeah, right. So there's one semester.
You have a master's degree, not a backpack.
I have a backpack at home.
A lot of teachers are backpackers, and sometimes they are only in the school for one semester and then they are gone. Yeah, a lot of teachers are like that.
One teacher and one assistant, and in the class, the students is 40, 50 students.
Yes,
So you
right.
have two teachers controlling a 40, 50 students.
Yes, that's correct. And the classroom is not that big. I think it's around this size. So it's like very compact. And in Thailand, we still use the blackboard and chalk. So it's very difficult for students to concentrate on the class. Yeah, so 50 students.
I'm interested in the ideas about studying for public because, in Japan, there's often a lot of emphasis with practice and explaining grammar and vocabulary. And, my feeling as a teacher is that you should be spending 80 to 90% of your time trying to use English. You become proficient in English. The tests should be easy. A little bit of test study and practice is useful. What do you think about that? Do you actually study for tests at all?
No. So before the test, I just listened to the YouTube channel. They have like a listening test, and then I just do my cooking or like doing the laundry and listen to the test. So I think it's very difficult to study for the test. I think it's easier to just enjoy learning English, and then when you're taking the test, it's just the thing that measure your knowledge. Yeah, I think it's the opposite way. Oh, yes, please.
High students and Japanese students, which one do you think care the most about trying to speak English? Which ones see English is relevant and useful in more Japan or
So for the Japanese students, they think that if they can speak English and understand English, it helps them to have a better job opportunities. But for Thai students, it seems like it's impressive if you can speak English. So you're like kakoi because you can speak English. And a lot of social media posts usually be in English because it's fashionable. Yeah. A lot of students and teenagers they are listening to English songs because they want to be on the trend, not thinking about the job opportunity as much as Japanese students.
Which we keep one of the, and I need a different document. Japanese and Thais.
I think Japanese students they have a lot of pressure to learn English.
Japanese.
Yeah, but Thai students they be like chill. I just want to listen to the songs. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes.
Talk a little bit about your experiences learning Japanese in Japan and learning English. The differences in learning.
Oh, okay. So I was in the Japanese school for 2 years with the Japanese teacher, and during the Japanese school days, I didn't have a chance to speak Japanese as much because all my friends were foreigners, so we usually communicate in English. Yeah, so after I graduated the Japanese school and I went to technical school, I had a lot of Japanese friends, which I could really use the Japanese. So my Japanese um, actually improved after I left the Japanese school. Yeah, right. And then learning English in Japan, I feel like it's the same thing. So we learn in English, but all the students there, they just talk in Japanese. Yeah, right. So I think the environment outside the classroom is very important, either Japanese or English. Because even though I was in Japan for the first 2 years, I couldn't speak as much Japanese as other people. Yeah. Thank you for the question.
English learning in China. Thank you, Mo.
Thank you so much. Next, please. Yeah, to begin my presentation, I'd like to share a travel experience. When I first time traveled overseas to Southeast Asia, and I couldn't even order food. For 3 whole months, I almost didn't talk to anyone. If someone asked me, how are you? I might be able to answer like, I'm fine, thank you, and you? But unfortunately, no one speaks like that in real life. So even that was exactly what my teacher taught me. Actually, I had been studying English since I was 9 years old, but why after 10 years, I still unable to communicate nicely? Because before studying abroad for the first time when I was 25, I had spent my entire education within the traditional Chinese public school system, where the class focused on test scores rather than the real communication. So this experience deeply shaped my views and lead to this presentation. I will discuss 2 main points. Next, please. My personal learning journey and my observations of English learning in China. In the first section, I will start with an overview of Chinese education system and share my experience of classes. Then I will discuss the turning point that motivated me to choose learn language and introduce Mr. Lai, who played a very important role in my self-study. In the second section, I will look at the difference between the urban and rural areas, different attitudes, towards English and how learning needs and method had changed nowadays. Next, please. Let's start with an introduction to Chinese education system. The primary school and middle school is free and compulsory. After middle school, the high school entrance exam and the college exam is typically based on scores. Next, please. Like this. In China, we call Gaokao, and only one time per year, and it's only scores. There's no any other requirements, not like other countries, interview or something. So this exam-oriented system explains why English education in China is focused on scores, with little attention paid to developing the real communications skills. Next, please. So what do the classes typically looks like in most public schools? I started learning English since I was 9 years old, which like third grade 3, and in a class more than 60 students, and lessons like 2 or 3 times per week, 14 minutes per time, and focus on memorizing vocabulary, reading aloud, and explain grammar. 90% time is teacher talking on the class and we just listening. Yeah, there's no time, there's no chance for practicing the communication or not. So next, please. When I got into the middle school, the classes focus on preparing for the high school exam, which means 中考. But the class almost the same, memorizing vocabulary and learning the grammar and reading aloud and analyzing the grammar. And we did a lot of test papers of the English, like a little bit listening and reading, a lot of reading and grammar, and writing 80 words essay, like 第二例话 something. So high school was much the same, but it's more difficult. But even the vocabulary require like 3,500 words. But actually what we studied is only maybe 2,000, 2,500 words in the high school. And however, repeating the same content over and over again drained my interest in English. With so many students in the class, it was impossible for teachers to provide the encouragement or feedback. Without any sense of achievement or meaningful feedback, I began to feel frustrated and lost motivation, like no interest in anymore. Next, please. And until I was 19, I had no interest in English at all and never tried to study it. But when I stayed in a young hostel in Chiang Mai during the summer vacation, I met a lot of young people, same as my age. They are really friendly and eager to chat and make new friends. Me too. But however, there was a problem. I could understand a little bit, but I couldn't speak at all. I only spoke with any other Chinese travelers. So it wasn't that bad of a trip, but was really frustrating. And next, please. When I returned to China, I spent 1,000 yen to buy a set of Leicester's English textbook and download the free course that came with the book. Mr. Lai, I think maybe didn't never hear his name, but he's really famous English teacher in China, in mainland China and Taiwan. Like he taught himself by using the traditional method, like dictionary and a radio, in the 16 years ago. And after graduation from the University of Minnesota, he began to teach English in Taiwan. And now he still experienced young people to learn language on social media every day. Next, please. And he believes that the best way to learn language is by imitating pronunciation like three-year-old kids learning their mother tongue. And his material used real conversations, not the exam one. And his beginner textbook is very simple. Less is more, and one class can be finished like only half an hour. And he includes listening, watching shows, reading aloud, and memorizing text when the real practice isn't available. Next, please. I started with his method, listening to his explanation and understanding the grammar, the very basic grammar, and reading along with the material, imitating the pronunciation, and practicing until it sounds nearly the same. It wasn't until later that I know it's called shadowing. So it was all very basic and beginner level content. I memorized them after I practice. So I also feel very doubtful when I was studying. It's really useful. It's so easy. I look like stupid something. But luckily, after 3 months, I found my answer. Yes, it was really useful. Next, please. Because 3 months later, I faced my exam and my second solo trip to India. It's a total different trip. I was walking confidently on the street of India, like a local girl who didn't speak Hindi, and I tried to chat with anyone rather than waiting for someone to ask me, "How are you?" It was amazing how far I had come. I summarized several reasons for why I can improve in a short time. Next, please. Of course, the first one is good teacher and learning method. And the second one, even I wasn't interested in English, but I really love watching the American sitcoms since I was a teenager with the Chinese subtitle. So I think I would get you to listen to it. And the third, after good input, I immediately had an emerging environment for output. Because in India, everyone can speak very good English. And I'm a very talkative person. But unfortunately, I didn't keep learning like that. I didn't continue to study the grammar or increase my vocabulary because I think it's boring, but it's very necessary. And also due to the COVID, I didn't have the opportunity to go abroad. I didn't travel anymore. And next, please. After my English learning stopped, I worked at a scholarship NPO, which used donations to fund kids, the students in need, helping them get into the high school or even go to the college. So when I worked closely with students, what struck me and where the iPhone from iPhone 4 to iPhone 14, but the way students learning in English now in the rural areas, they're like same, like 20 years ago. So this realization led me to deeply on the current state of English education in China. And that brings us to the second part of my presentation, my observations on English education in China. Next, please. So the first one is the gap in educational resource caused by economic growth and the level of internationalization. Over the past 20 years, the highly economic development has created a gap between the rich and the poor, especially the eastern, coastal, and central and western regions, both income and education resource. In the major cities, like the blue cities, like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangdong, Zhejiang, the children start learning English at the age of 6, the first grade, and there were few students per teacher, like only 30 students or 35, 40, and students have the rich resources such as foreign teachers and practiced conversations and speech contest or debates. They benefit from the advanced equipment and teaching method and opportunity for travel or short-term study abroad. However, in smaller cities or rural areas, children start learning English later, 9 years old like me, or even 12, the middle school, and the teachers' education levels are lower, salary lower, and teaching quality is lower, and everything is focused on test scores. So how do this difference shape students and families' attitudes towards English learning? Next, please. The attitudes also pretty different. There's a joke on social media, like the mother from Beijing asked, "Is 3,000 vocabulary enough for 6-year-old kid?" And someone replied, "Yeah, I think it's enough in the UK, but not be enough in the Beijing private primary schools." So many families in the major cities started focusing on English learning from the age of 2. They even cannot speak Chinese, but they already started English learning and sending their children to the bilingual kindergartens, which was very expensive. When I was working in Shenzhen, my friend kid, like his kindergarten is almost 2 million yen or 3 million yen per year. And investing a lot of time and money into the tutoring and hiring the personal native speakers, teachers. By the age of 7 or 8, the children sounds like native speaker. And by the high school, they can get TOEFL scores over 100. By comparison, in many families, both their children and the parents believe English is not important because English used to be the only foreign language choice for Gaokao. But now they can choose Japanese, Korean, French, Russian, Spanish. So many students choose to learn Japanese and Korean because of anime or K-pop. Next, please. So, however, English learning nowadays isn't just only for children and students. More and more adults have recognized its importance for salary, career, and expanding their horizons. So they're discovering their own learning method, used AI apps, and sharing their experience on social media. The rise of apps, AI, and online learning has also broken through locations limited and giving many families more choice. They can hire native speaker teachers for their children at a lower price, about 100,000 yen per year on average. I think it's pretty good. Like it reduced the gap in educational levels. Next, please. Yeah, leaving behind the frustrating exam-driven education, I experienced the joy of language learning for the first time. And I also discovered the importance of motivation and learning method. With AI and social media, I think we now have the richer resource for learning language than ever before. And I hope that one day English learning will no longer be a costly privilege but important to everyone, regardless of the age or background. Yeah, thank you so much.
I have one question.
Oh. Yeah, please.
So in Japan, the university exams play a big role in the education system. And I've heard that in China, it's an even bigger thing. So what's your opinion about kind of tests and education? Do you think they can be useful or always bad or really good?
Education in China?
So the role of tests.
Test? The Gaokao?
Yeah. What is your opinion?
Yeah, actually, I really hated Gaokao when I was a teenager. Like, I feel like what I'm doing now is really useless. I really hate it. And also, I'm not a very good student. Like, I cannot get higher scores. It's also one of the reasons why I hate it. But actually, now I feel like, for some reason, like the higher education, it's pretty expensive in some countries. Like tuition is very expensive, and also the interview pretty difficult for the poor kids. But in China, like if you study hard, you can get the high scores and you can go to any university you want, and it's pretty cheap. It's only 100,000 yen per year. So, but it's also really crazy now because everyone just want the higher scores, and they're doing a lot of practice, the practice paper, the test, and it's literally unused and waste of time, and it's also hurting the body, not good for the healthy. You sit for a long time, like 10 hours, 12 hours per day. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Grace. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. We'll take a short break.
5 minutes.
5-minute break. Okay. Back to you. Oh.
Oh.
What do you want to point to? Is that okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, welcome back. We are now going to start the last part of our journey today. Are you feeling sleepy? Okay, this presentation is gonna be very quick, about 15 minutes. So here's the challenges and solutions in Japanese classmates English learning. I think most of you guys here are English teacher in Japan, which you teach Japanese students, and I think we see the same things. So this presentation includes background and method of surveys, for core issues and suggestions, and summary and outlooks. So we studied with our Japanese classmates for 1 year and found that many of them are very enthusiastic and serious about learning English. After Mr. Holster invited us to do this presentation, we conducted a questionnaire survey in the class to better understand their English learning experiences and organize them into this presentation. So the small classroom survey with 11 students, together with our own observations, has allowed us to summarize 4 key points: motivation dilemma, classroom silence, time dilemma, and capacity imbalance, along with some suggestions. Question 1: what motivated Japanese students to study English? So many students are primarily motivated by external factors. 7 students identify improved their TOEIC scores and enhancing job hunting as their main motivation, while other 4 were motivated by a desire to communicate and personal interests. You have noticed that students with intrinsic motivation tend to persist longer and overcome obstacles more easily. Given these challenges, fostering an autonomy may be a key to enhancing motivation. Building on this idea, one effective way is to nurture intrinsic motivation by offering students more autonomy in their learning process. So here are some solutions from students' perspective. Let students choose topics they are interested in and focus on those. Allow students to develop learning goals and approaches according to their interests. Encourage students to set their own learning goals instead of just TOEIC scores. For example, traveling overseas and use English, make new foreigner friends, talk to them, or use a planner in English. Enhance intrinsic motivation through competition and project-based learning. Last year, we held a reading contest in the Fukuoka Jo Gakuin University, and about 1/3 of the students participated. They practiced diligently and improved quickly, Of course, not everyone enjoys competition, so we can incorporate other engaged activities when students engage in interest-driven projects. They may find joy in learning, which strengthens their intrinsic motivation. A second question, how often do you communicate with foreigners? Three students have daily communication with foreign teachers, and 8 students, they do not have any communication with foreigners at all. While motivation is the key driver for language learning, it is often undermined by lack of confidence. Even when students are motivated by TOEIC, their fear of making mistakes can lead to inactivity in class. This creates a cycle where students hesitate to engage, limiting their progress. Also, when observations show that most of the students lack confidence in speaking English, only 3 students actively engage with foreigner teachers, while others avoid speaking. These not only affect daily communication, but also make them stay silent the whole class. These challenges are made worse by differences between Japanese and English pronunciation and grammar, which make learning English harder. Additionally, Japan's collectivist culture and passive learning style means students have fewer opportunities to practice English. As you can see from the diagram here, there's a difference in pronunciation compared to English. English is right here, and here's the difference in grammar compared to English. So here is Vietnam, Thai, China, and Japan is right here. It's the completely opposites. The Japanese grammar and English grammar is in reverse. And also there's not a lot of sounds in Japan. So a lot of Japanese students couldn't pronounce sounds in the English. Oh,
What's the one next to it?
Korea. I'm sorry. Yeah. From the Google. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be here. I'll try to search the website and send it to you later. Yeah, and Korean and Japanese grammar, they are very similar, so yeah, very close to each other. And from here, so pronunciation is right here, but Thai grammar and English grammar are not that different. So it's easier for me to learn English than Japanese. To address these challenges, perhaps create a supportive learning environment and incorporating interactive activities could be helpful. Creating learning environment that encourage mistakes, fostering a classroom atmosphere where mistakes are viewed as a major part of learning may help students feel more at ease when speaking. With gentle reassurance and encouragement, they may become more willing to take the first step and gradually build confidence. A more interactive classroom might also help boost motivation and engagement in the first year. In the first year, we have Chinese and Korean classes in the university. Both classes start with around 15 students, but by the second semester, the Korean class drops to just 3 students, while Chinese class keep almost everyone. One possible reason could be the interactive teaching style used in the Chinese class. The teacher often asks follow-up questions, which make the class feel more interactive and engaging. So I'm taking the Chinese class in the university, and the teacher is very kind. She always asks simple questions in Chinese, and we could answer those questions, which really help us to understand the basic of Chinese. While I didn't take the Korean class, But my friend who took it, they say the teacher just keep talking by himself, and the test was difficult, and they couldn't understand a thing he said. So yeah, a lot of students drop the classes after the second semester, which is very sad because Korean language is very close to Japanese, and it's easier for them to learn Korean than Chinese, in my opinion. Okay, now let's hear one more time.
Thank you so much. The question 3 is the learning way, because the data about part-time working among Japanese students shows that around 18% of Japanese students are working part-time job, and 95% of them 95% of them had part-time job before. And in our experience, almost everyone in our class, they have part-time job. And even sometimes they handle like 2 or 3 jobs. So this shows the students have very busy schedules in managing both studying and work. Finding time to focus on the studying outside of class can be hard. And this leads to our discussion on how learning time is broken up and how digital tools can help. However, our survey find that most students, 6 of 11, they still use the traditional textbooks. They read the TOEIC books every day in the class, and which require more focusing and compared to the smartphone that allow more flexible learning anytime, anywhere. Next, please. And we think got 2 solutions about the busy schedule. And the first one is recommended apps such as ABC or Duolingo. Introduce them to learning apps such as ABC for TOEIC, and might offer a convenient and flexible way to make the most of their available study time on the bus or the train, because we saw a lot of students, they watch the YouTube or TikTok on the train, and I think it's also good if they can use the time for memorizing the vocabulary from the smartphone. And the second one is Golden students make English part of a daily life. Recommend the engaging YouTube English channel by making language learning a part of daily life. Students can stay motivated and find more enjoyment. From my experience, I isn't not too much watching the English show or anything in English, like, so I didn't let English become my part of my daily life. That's why I think that's also one of the reasons why I stopped improving my English. This can not only increase their motivation to learn, but also make English easier and funnier. Next, please. Question 4 is balancing input and output, because TOEIC, well, e-learning tools provide students with new ideas, but the output is also very important. Some classmates have asked us, how can I improve my spoken in English? I really want to speak confidently and fluently with foreign teachers, or I want to travel overseas. So I think it's because they paid too much attention for the TOEIC, like the listening and reading, but they didn't practice the writing and speaking at all. So without output, they cannot improve the English in real communication. Next, please. So maybe introducing the shadowing is a good way for them self-studying, because it's very difficult for providing the speaking practice for each student in the class. it might be helpful to introduce self-learning way for them. And one such method is like shadowing, what I did before. I think it's also very good for Japanese study, any language studying. Because while I was studying in the Japanese school, and my Japanese teacher also say it's good if you can use the shadowing in Japanese. And by the shadowing, we can improve the speaking and listening nicely. So next one is the AI for writing training and practice partner. While speaking practice is a key way to develop language, but writing also can play a very important role, particularly for students who may feel shy or less confident when speaking. ChatGPT also provides a low-pressure environment for students to practice both speaking and writing. Next, please. And we noticed that Japanese classmates are very interested in English and want to learn very well. However, we also noticed that some students lack of confidence and keep quiet, fearing mistakes or feeling embarrassing by exam focused method. By creating a supportive and encouraging learning environment, students may feel more empowered to explore English in ways with their interest. And we hope our insights and experience will be helpful to both students and educators. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Hi, well, John, it's Trevor again. I have a question about AI because you say
yeah.
Now, I think a lot of teachers,
yeah,
we want to use this in a useful way. But we're really worried that students will just use it basically cheat. If we, for example, ask students to write an essay, they can just ask
yeah.
to write it. Do you think that students are using it well, or what do we need to do to teach students how to use it well? This is a good question.
I think most of our classmates, they just use the ChatGPT for write homework or something, but actually I think like
give us names.
it's not nice. It's not nice, but like because like almost 7 years ago, and I was planning study abroad to New Zealand. So at that time, I was prepared for the IELTS test, and it's pretty expensive for me. Like if I write some essay and I want to have some teacher to say it and teach me how to write it, it's very expensive. Like maybe $10 per S, like for each one. But now it's free, totally free from ChatGPT. I just send to them and they can give me back immediately. So I think it's really nice. It's really nice for AI, like for the adjusting the IC and give us the suggestion.
Thank you. Do you think teachers can teach students to use it in a better way?
Teachers what? I cannot hear.
So, I think a lot of students probably want to use it, but they don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think actually not everyone used AI very nicely. Maybe they use, but they didn't use it in the right way. Like maybe you can use AI like a teacher, AI teacher, and ask everything to them, and you can get an answer. And also like ChatGPT Plus, $20 per month. If we make the account for Plus, and ChatGPT can talk to you whenever I want. So I would use it like 1 month for my Japanese studying, and it's pretty useful. But I think the way for our classmates, they're so young and they're not very good at computer or the AI apps, and they even didn't use it. They use textbook. I was really surprised because textbook is really heavy and it's really expensive. So but most everyone they use textbook, not like the apps. Yeah, I think maybe we can teach teach them how to use and recommend the good apps to them so they can study at home if they want.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Can I answer to that question as
Sure,
well?
sure.
So when I want to write email in Japanese, I always ask AI to write for me. Because Japanese email is so formal. I don't know, like, how could I write by myself? So it's very easy for me to just ask AI, can you reply this email in Japanese for me, saying that blah blah blah. Yeah, and then so I think a lot of students, they are using AI in their daily life and also in the school right now. But what AI cannot do is that AI cannot speak for you. AI cannot do the presentation for you. So it would be really good to, so for example, AI could write you essay, but then you have to say it by yourself in the class. So I think that's the way to improve English with the AI. Yeah. Is there any more questions?
No, I understand what you mean about using AI for Japanese email, because there are so many phrases that
Yeah.
use that. If I wrote an email in English and just translated it, we wouldn't have those
Yeah, all
phrases
those
I need
fixed
to have.
phrases, yes, right?
So I mean, I must, and all, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So what I do is just, I keep, like the template of, put this at the front, put this at the bottom, and content in the middle. That's translated.
Yeah, right. But sometimes you can ask AI to adjust the formality of the emails. For example, make this email super formal, and the greeting would be so long, and the ending would be even longer. Yeah, so it's very useful. Yeah, that's how I use AI. So so I heard it from Jack. Actually, it's Cloud. Claude. Yeah, I've never tried ChatGPT actually. I don't know which one is better, but
Microsoft have one, it's ChatGPT based thing. Yeah, so all the new Windows machines have it built in, making it go along.
is there any other question?
The two of you, do you have any advice for community teachers about how they better teaching? Help you guys.
So I think the first impression is very important. You have to do a proper ice break with Japanese students. Otherwise, they're not gonna accept you. Yeah, right. I think that's because I used to work in after school teaching kids English. And what they always said is that you have to do a proper ice break. Like, yeah, the kid was very young, like 3 to 6 years old. Then you have to introduce yourself and you can sing a song or ask them easy question like, what's your hobby? And when they are open to you, they can speak to you and accept what you want to teach them. I think it's work the same way with high school or university students. A proper ice break is important. I mean, like not only one time, but at the beginning of the class. Yeah, of every class. And so I understand the struggling of the teacher, like how they feel when they try to ask student questions, but the student just don't want to say a word. Yeah, I try to give my full participation in the class, but some students, they just sit in the back and play their phone. And I think you have to like ask them to like come sit closer. Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, and I had actually I asked one time to my Japanese classmate, to our Japanese classmate, and I say, why you keep silence in class, never talk? Because actually she has a very high TOEIC scores, like 800, 850 something. And she answered because she afraid of making mistake. Like she don't want to make a mistake, or like the pronunciation not good. And she want to keep quiet, and so no one will laugh at her or something. And I asked, like, if the teacher said at first of class, like, our class is welcome for the troublemakers, like you can ask any questions you want, and it can help you, it also can help others. So the students who had most questions and is the best students. And I say, if the teacher say like that, will you try to speak more? And she said, yeah, maybe if I heard about like that at first of class, and then I might be able to speak more and ask more questions. But it takes time. Yeah, it takes time.
Yeah, and if you speak in the class, even to the teacher, is considered rude. So the teacher can continue teaching without interruption. That's what the students think. But yeah, I think teacher could ask, like, is there any question, or do you understand this, or ask some simple questions to students so that they could give their concentration on the class.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Yanika and Lauren. Okay.